The winters in Vancouver don't kill you cleanly. They do it slowly, with rain that never quite becomes snow, with cold that seeps through your coat before you even step outside, with gray skies that sit on your shoulders like something you owe. Nora Callahan knew that weight better than most. She had been working the late shift at the Anchor, a diner on East Hastings that smelled permanently of burnt coffee and someone else's regret, for 3 years. 3 years of wiping down tables that never fully came clean, of memorizing orders without writing them down because the regulars hated when you wrote things down, of counting the hour between 2 and 3 in the morning when the city got quiet enough that you could almost hear yourself think. She was 22 years old. She had $47 in her bank account, a left knee that clicked on cold mornings from a fall she never got properly looked at, and a talent for noticing things other people missed. That last part was what changed everything. Before we get into what Nora Callahan saw that night, and trust me, you are going to want to sit down for this. If you're new here, welcome to Lily's Romance Library. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a story. And if you've been here before, you already know, we don't do ordinary here now. Let's go back to East Hastings. It was 2:17 in the morning when the black SUV pulled up to the curb across the street. Nora noticed it because it didn't belong. Not because it was expensive. Expensive cars passed through that block sometimes, lost or slumming or looking for something the nicer parts of the city wouldn't sell them. She noticed it because it stopped. It just stopped, engine running, and nobody got out. She was wiping down the window booth from the outside. Her manager Deb had a thing about streaks. When the back door opened and something fell out onto the sidewalk. Not something. Someone. Nora dropped her cloth. She crossed the street before she had fully decided to. Later, she wouldn't be able to explain why. There was no calculation, no weighing of risk versus reward. Her body just went. The girl was young. Maybe 16, maybe less. She was wearing a school uniform, gray blazer, white shirt, the crest of St. Catherine's Academy stitched above the breast pocket. And she was soaking wet from the rain even though it had only been drizzling for 10 minutes. Which meant she had been outside longer than that. Much longer. She was breathing. Nora pressed 2 fingers to the girl's throat and felt a pulse, thin, fast, fluttery, like a bird trying to escape a closed hand. The SUV was already gone. Hey! Nora crouched down, put a hand on the girl's cheek. Cold. Too cold. Hey, can you hear me? The girl's eyes opened halfway. Dark brown, glassy, fighting to focus. Don't move, Nora said. I've got you. You're okay. The girl made a sound that wasn't quite a word. Her hand moved, weak and searching, and found Nora's wrist. Her fingers closed around it with a grip that said, please don't leave, in a language that needed no translation. Inside the Anchor, Deb was yelling about something. Nora didn't hear it. Hand, the one that wasn't holding her wrist, and what was in it? A phone. Cracked screen, still lit. A contact pulled up, ready to dial. One name on the screen, D, just the letter. One initial, nothing else. Nora looked at the girl. The girl's eyes had closed again. She pressed call. It rang once. That was all, Sophie. The voice that answered was not a voice you forgot. Low, controlled. The kind of quiet that isn't peace, but its opposite. A quiet that comes from never needing to raise your volume, because the world has learned to lower its noise around you. Sophie, where are you? It was not a question. She's not Sophie, Nora said. I mean, she is, I think. This is her phone. But she's not the one calling. My name is Nora Callahan. I work at a diner on East Hastings, and I found your... She paused. I found Sophie on the sidewalk outside. She's unconscious. Her pulse is weak. I need to know if she has any medical conditions before I call 911. A silence that lasted exactly 2 seconds. In Nora's experience, silences had textures. This one felt like the moment before a storm decides what kind it's going to be. Do not call 911. The voice had not changed in volume or tone. That was somehow more frightening than if it had. Do not move her. What is the name of the diner? The Anchor. But listen, she needs. Stay where you are. The line went dead. Nora looked at the phone. She looked at Sophie. She almost called 911 anyway. She didn't. She wasn't sure, even later, why she didn't. Maybe it was something in the girl's face, the trust she had placed in that one contact, the single letter, the fact that the phone had been open and ready, as if Sophie had tried to dial it herself. before she lost consciousness. Maybe it was something in the voice. Not warmth. There had been no warmth. But something underneath it. Something coiled and immediate and focused in a way that said this person will not let her die. Nora sat on the wet sidewalk in her anchor apron and held Sophie's hand and waited. It took 4 minutes. 3 black vehicles arrived simultaneously from opposite ends of the block. Not sirens, no lights, just the quiet, coordinated arrival of people who knew how to move without being seen. 6 men got out, all in dark clothes, all with the particular stillness of professionals who operated at this hour of the morning without blinking. And then the 7th. Dominic Reardon was 41 years old, and he looked like a man who had been built for one purpose and had spent 4 decades perfecting it. Tall, not unusually so, but the way he carried himself added inches. Dark hair, silver at the temples, a jaw that could have been cut from the granite of the BC interior. He was wearing a charcoal overcoat that probably cost more than Nora's last 4 months of rent, and he moved through the cluster of his men the way water moves around stones. Effortlessly, without seeming to notice the obstacle, he went straight to Sophie. He knelt beside her on the wet pavement, this man in that coat, and he put his hand against her face with a gentleness that was so at odds with every other thing about him that Nora felt her breath catch. Sophie, his voice was different now, still low, but the control had slipped at its edges, just slightly, the way ice cracks in spring, not breaking yet but showing you the fault lines. "Sophie, I'm here." The girl's eyes opened. "Uncle Dom," she whispered. Something moved through Dominic Reardon's face. It was there and gone in less than a second, and Nora, who was very good at noticing things, caught it. Relief, raw, unguarded, and absolutely devastating. He looked up, found Nora. She was still sitting on the sidewalk, Sophie's hand in hers, the diner apron soaked through, hair plastered to the side of her face. She probably looked like something the rain had washed in. She met his eyes anyway. "You're the one who called," he said. "Yes." He looked at her for a long moment. He looked at her the way people who were used to reading rooms read rooms, taking inventory, cataloging, deciding. "What did you see?" he asked. "A black SUV. Dropped her at the curb. Pulled away before I got across the street. I didn't get the plate." One of the men behind him, broad-shouldered, buzz-cut, the kind of neck that had its own postal code, made a sound of impatience. Dominic Reardon did not acknowledge it. "What else?" he said. Nora hesitated. "She was wet when I found her. More than 10 minutes of rain wet. Someone had her somewhere first before they dropped her here." The buzz-cut man looked at Nora differently now. Dominic Reardon stood. He was quiet for a moment, and then he said, to no one in particular, "Bring the car around," and then to Nora directly, "Come with us." It was not phrased as a request. "I have a shift," Nora said. "Your shift is over." She looked at Sophie, now being lifted carefully by 2 of the men, who handled the girl with a precision that suggested they had training in it. She looked at Dominic Reardon. She thought about the $47 in her account and the clicking knee and the diner that smelled like burnt coffee. She went. The house, Nora refused internally to call it anything more than that, was in West Vancouver up in the hills above the city, and from the outside it looked like the cover of an architectural magazine. Clean lines, floor-to-ceiling glass, the kind of landscaping that required a full-time person just to maintain its effortlessness. Inside it looked the same, ordered, expensive, and underneath all of it the particular atmosphere of a place where nothing happened casually. They brought Sophie to a room on the 2nd floor where a doctor was waiting. A small, precise man named Elliot, who wore round glasses and spoke in the clipped sentences of someone who billed by the minute. He examined Sophie quickly, efficiently, and then turned to Dominic Reardon. "Mild sedative," he said. "Not dangerous on its own. She'll be fully conscious within a few hours. No signs of injury. Whoever did this wanted her out, not harmed." "Yet," Dominic Reardon said. Elliot blinked. "I would recommend rest and observation for. You can go." Elliot went. Nora stood in the hallway because nobody had told her where else to stand. One of the men, not buzz-cut, a younger one with watchful eyes and a mouth that did a lot of listening, appeared at her elbow and said, "Mr. Reardon would like to speak with you." She followed him to a room on the main floor. Study, or something like it. Bookshelves, a desk, a leather couch that had probably never been sat on for comfort. Dominic Reardon was standing at the window when she came in, looking out at the lights of the city below. "Sit down," he said, without turning. Nora sat. He turned eventually, poured 2 glasses of something amber from a bottle she didn't recognize and set one on the table in front of her. He took the other and sat across from her, not on the couch but in the chair, forward, elbows on his knees, in the posture of a man who was thinking harder than he was letting on. "Sophie is my niece," he said. "My sister's daughter. She attends St. Catherine's. She was supposed to be at a study group tonight. Supervised, on campus. She had permission. I verified the details myself." He paused. "She wasn't there. The school called me at 1:45 in the morning to say she had not been seen since 7 p.m. Nora looked at the glass in front of her. She didn't pick it up. "Someone took her. Someone took her," he agreed. "And then someone returned her, sedated and undamaged, 6 blocks from where they found her." He looked at Nora with that same cataloging attention. "That is not a random act. It's a message," Nora said. A slight pause. "Yes, to you, yes." The room was very quiet. Through the window, Vancouver glittered below them, indifferent and beautiful in the rain. "I work at a diner," Nora said, "on East Hastings. I don't know what kind of help you think You noticed things," Dominic Reardon said, "that my people would have missed. The duration of the rain exposure. The implication of a prior location. You didn't panic. You didn't run. You sat on a wet pavement and held my niece's hand and waited." He looked at her steadily. "I want to know why." Nora thought about it. She was genuinely trying to give him an honest answer, which was something she had learned to do because dishonesty, in her experience, cost more in the long run. "She was holding her phone," she said finally. "She was trying to call you. She was scared and hurt, and she used what she had left to reach the one person she thought could fix it." Nora looked at him. "I wasn't going to walk away from that." Something shifted in Dominic Reardon's expression. Not softening, the man did not seem designed for softening, more like a reassessment, a quiet recalculation. "No," he said. "I don't imagine you were." He was quiet for a moment. "There's a guest room on the 3rd floor," he said. "You'll stay here tonight. I told you I have. Your shift has been covered. Your manager has been informed you have a family emergency." He said it without apology, without acknowledgement that this was a remarkable thing to have arranged in the last 40 minutes. "In the morning, I'll have someone drive you home. Tonight, you stay." Nora opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "You said it was a message to you." She watched him. "Which means whoever sent it isn't done." "No," he said. "They are not, and they know Sophie's routine, her school, how she gets around." "Yes, which means they've been watching her for a while." Dominic Reardon looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not surprise. She got the sense this man was rarely surprised, more like the recognition of something he had not expected to find in this particular room. "Yes," he said. Nora picked up the glass. She took one small sip. It was very good whiskey, and she was never going to be able to drink it without thinking of this room. "What does the doctor say about her tomorrow?" she asked. "Fully conscious. Able to answer questions. She's going to be frightened. Yes, she'll talk more easily if someone she already trusts is there." Nora set the glass down. "She took my hand. She doesn't know me. She was barely conscious. But she took my hand. That means something." Dominic Reardon looked at her for a long time. "Get some sleep, Miss Callahan," he said. She slept better than she had in months, which probably said more about the mattress on the 3rd floor than about her state of mind. Sophie was awake by 9 the next morning. Nora heard it through the walls. Not crying, but the particular hum of people moving quickly. Voices kept low the way you kept them low around someone fragile. She was in the hallway, still in her anchor apron, because nobody had offered her a change of clothes, when the bedroom door opened and Sophie looked out. In daylight, the girl was sharper. Dark eyes, dark hair, the kind of face that was still deciding what it was going to look like in 10 years. A bruise was forming at her left temple. Not from last night, Nora thought. From before. Sophie looked at Nora. She looked at the apron. Something in her face changed. "You're the one from outside," she said. "Nora Callahan," Nora said. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone put me in a blender and forgot to add the lid." Sophie stepped back from the door. "Come in." Nora went in. Dominic Reardon was already there, in the chair by the window, still in the same clothes as last night, or ones identical to them. He looked at Nora when she entered. He didn't say anything. Sophie sat on the edge of the bed. She was quiet for a moment, hands in her lap, looking at them both with the careful steadiness of someone who had spent the night deciding how much to say. "They told me they were from the school," she said finally. "A car. 2 people. They said there was an emergency with one of the teachers and they needed to take me to the hospital. I got in because—" her jaw tightened. "Because I was stupid. You were 16, Nora said. You trusted adults who told you there was an emergency. That's not stupid. That's what you were taught to do." Sophie looked at her. Dominic Reardon, in the chair, was very still. "They took me to a building near the port," Sophie said. "I don't know exactly where. I could smell the water. They didn't hurt me. They gave me something to drink and I couldn't stay awake after that. When I woke up, I was in the car again and then I was outside and it was raining." She looked at her uncle. "They said to tell you that the debt is 2 months overdue and that the next time they send a message, they won't bother with the sedative." The room went very quiet. Dominic Reardon's face did not move, not a flicker. But something in the air around him changed, a density, a compression, the way the atmosphere changes before lightning. "Is there anything else?" he asked Sophie. His voice was perfectly even. "The man who was in the front seat," Sophie said. "He had a tattoo on the back of his hand, like a compass, but the needle was pointing down instead of up." Buzzcut appeared in the doorway. He and Dominic Reardon exchanged a look. Nora, who was good at noticing things, noticed it. She didn't leave that morning. Nobody asked her to, and she didn't offer, and somehow that became the arrangement. Dominic Reardon's house moved like an organism. People in and out, quiet conversations in rooms she wasn't invited into, the hum of something organized and purposeful and largely invisible to the outside world. She understood, in the abstract way she had always understood things without being told directly, that she was sitting in the middle of something significantly larger than a diner on East Hastings. She sat with Sophie through the morning. They didn't talk about the port or the building or the man with the compass tattoo. They talked about the things people talked about when they were trying to feel normal. Sophie's classes, a history project on the Klondike Gold Rush that was due the following Thursday, the particular injustice of cafeteria food at expensive private schools. At some point, Sophie fell asleep again. Nora went downstairs. Dominic Reardon was in the kitchen, not cooking, just standing with a coffee he wasn't drinking, looking at the city through the glass. Nora poured herself a cup from the pot and stood at the other end of the counter. "The compass tattoo," she said. "You knew it. I knew the organization it represents," he said. "They're the ones saying you owe them a debt." "Yes." Nora looked at her coffee. "Are they right?" He looked at her with an expression that might, in a different face, have been amusement. "You ask things directly. I've found it saves time." A pause. "The debt," he said, "is connected. There was an agreement. The terms were met from my end. They have chosen to interpret it differently, and they chose your niece to make that point." "Yes." Nora was quiet for a moment. Outside, the rain had stopped. Vancouver was doing that thing it sometimes did mid-morning, clearing enough to let the mountains show themselves above the clouds, huge and white and indifferent to everything happening below them. "She said the needle was pointing down," Nora said. "A compass with a needle pointing down. Do you know what that means? To them?" Dominic Reardon set down his coffee. He looked at her. "Where did you learn about that?" he said. "I didn't. I'm asking if you know. How do you know it matters?" Because she said down instead of up, like it was strange. Like she expected it to point up. Which means she has enough general knowledge to know compass needles point north, and enough attention under pressure to notice when something broke that rule. Nora looked at him. A 16-year-old under sedation noticed it was wrong. "I'm asking if you know what right looks like to them." Dominic Reardon was quiet for a long time. "The compass pointing up," he said finally, "is their symbol for a sanctioned operation, business as usual. The needle down is a signal they use internally. It means the operation is off books, not authorized by the senior leadership." He picked up his coffee, put it down again. "Which means whoever did this did not have the blessing of the people I have an arrangement with." Nora let that sit. "So someone inside their organization is running a side play," she said. "Yes." which means the debt threat might be real. But this particular move, using Sophie, that was someone's personal decision. Not policy, yes. Then you have a lever, she said. The leadership of that organization doesn't know their people went off book. If they did, and they sanctioned it, the needle would have pointed up. The room was very still. Dominic Reardon looked at Nora Callahan, the waitress from East Hastings, 22 years old, $47 in her account, apron still slightly damp, with an expression she had not seen on him yet. It was not the cataloging look, not the steady assessment. It was something more direct than that. Something that had made a decision. "Sit down," he said. "I'll make breakfast." She stayed 3 more days. This was not planned. It evolved the way things evolved when nobody made the formal decision to stop them. Sophie asked if Nora could stay for dinner the first night. And then it was late, and then morning came. And by the 3rd day, Nora had a spare toothbrush from under the bathroom cabinet, and Sophie was showing her the history project on the Klondike. Dominic Reardon moved around her the way the city moved around the mountains. Like she was something that had always been there, had always been accounted for, even if nobody had planned for it. On the 2nd evening, he came and found her in the library. She had discovered, embarrassingly, that there was one, and had been working through a copy of the collected short stories of Alice Munro, with the focused pleasure of someone who lived near a library but never had time to use it. He sat down across from her and didn't say anything for a while. She kept reading. He seemed in some way to be comfortable with that. "I made contact this afternoon," he said eventually, "with the senior leadership of the organization." She looked up. "They were not aware," he said. "The man with the compass tattoo, his name is Marcus Webb, mid-level. He had a private grievance and chose an unauthorized method of expressing it." He paused. "He will not be a problem going forward." Nora thought about what that meant practically and decided not to ask. "Sophie is safe," she said. "Yes, and the debt? Also resolved." Something in his face. "I was right about the terms," they agreed. She went back to Alice Munro. Outside, the rain had returned. Proper Vancouver rain this time, steady and committed, the kind that didn't apologize for itself. "You should stay," Dominic Reardon said. She looked up again. "Here," he said. "There's work here that, what you did the way you think, there's a use for that. And Sophie," he stopped, rephrased, "Sophie has taken to you." Nora looked at him. She was very good at noticing things, and what she noticed was that he had started the sentence with work and then changed it. "I have a job," she said. "You have a job that pays you less than you're worth and asks you to clean windows in the rain at 2 in the morning. I like the rain, Nora." It was the first time he had used her first name without the last name attached. She registered this the way she registered things, quietly, completely, filing it somewhere that mattered. "What would the work involve?" she said. "Noticing things. Telling me what you notice." He met her eyes. "Being honest. You have a talent for that is considerably rarer than you seem to understand." She looked at Alice Munro. She thought about East Hastings and burnt coffee and $47 and the clicking knee she'd never had looked at. She thought about a girl on a wet sidewalk, holding a phone open to a single letter, trying with what was left of her consciousness to reach the person who could fix it. She thought about what it meant to be the person someone reached for. "Okay," she said. Dominic Reardon was quiet. "Okay," he said. Outside, Vancouver pulled its mountains back behind the clouds, the way it did, saving them for a clearer day. The rain came down on the city the way it always did, washing the streets of everything except the things that didn't wash away. Some things, Nora Callahan was beginning to understand, you didn't run from. Some things you walked toward. And if you were paying attention, if you were the kind of person who noticed the details other people missed, who sat in the rain holding someone's hand until the right person showed up, sometimes the thing you walked toward turned out to be exactly where you were supposed to be. So that's the story of Nora Callahan, and the night she picked up a stranger's phone on a wet Vancouver sidewalk and changed both their lives. What do you think? Did Nora make the right call staying? Or would you have walked away? Leave your answer in the comments below. And if this story kept you company tonight, a like means more than you know. It helps Lily's Romance Library reach more people who need a good story. I'll see you in the next one.